Start చేసుకోవచ్చా? Good morning, my dear students. Today we are going to know about cerebellum. Yesterday we have completed pons. Before that, our lectures are medulla, nuclear organization, and the brainstem. Now this is the cerebellum. So this is present behind the brainstem. Brainstem means midbrain, pons, medulla. Midbrain, pons, medulla. So the cerebellum is present behind the pons, behind the brainstem. It is present in posterior cranial fossa. It is present in posterior cranial fossa. That means pons is anterior to the cerebellum. So in between the pons and cerebellum, floor of the fourth ventricle is there. In between the pons and cerebellum, there is floor of the fourth ventricle is there. So floor of the fourth ventricle is present between the dorsal surface of the pons and anterior surface of the cerebellum and anterior surface of the cerebellum. So that is the cerebellum. So this is the lateral view showing the cerebellum with the cerebrum. So this is the frontal lobe, frontal lobe, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. This is the pons, this is the medulla, this is the cerebellum. How the cerebellum is present behind the pons and also behind the medulla, behind the medulla. So there is midbrain also. Above this pons, midbrain is also. So that is covered by the temporal lobe of the cerebrum. So below this one, medulla, midbrain is there. So midbrain, pons, medulla constitute the brainstem. The cerebellum is present behind the brainstem. So the anterior part of the cerebellum. So this is the posterior surface of the pons and upper part of the medulla. That is the floor of the fourth ventricle. So floor of the fourth ventricle intervenes between the pons and medulla anteriorly and the cerebellum posteriorly. This is the overall picture of the cerebellum. How it is grooved. How it is grooved. How it is grooved. This is the groove. So the characteristic differentiation of the cerebellum. You see the characteristic differentiation of cerebrum. So how these are large, whereas these are very narrow, and the characteristic appearance of the grooves present in the cerebellum outer surface, and the characteristic feature of grooves present in the subside gyri present in the cerebrum. So you should not confuse. You see comparatively this diagram and this diagram. If anybody gives you cerebellum, you should not take it as part of cerebrum. So you have to identify the difference. So this is also grooved. Up and downs are there. This is also there. This is the upper region gyri. This is the sulci. Here also the same pattern is there. But here the grooves are longitudinal. The grooves are longitudinal. These are present in this direction. Whereas in this direction, in this direction, and in this direction, in various directions, they are present. In this one, these are present. Now, here is a characteristic feature. The sulcine gyri pattern present in one individual does not correspond totally 100% with the other individual. It does not totally correspond with sulcine gyri of the other individual. There is a difference. This architectural difference is there when compared with cerebrum, whereas in the cerebellum, such a thing is not present. So you cannot totally identify which part of the cerebellum of one person with another person except DNA testing. Whereas the sulcine gyri of this characteristic feature is particularly present in one individual only, but it does not present in the other individual, like fingerprints. So your fingerprint does not tally with anybody's fingerprint. So like this characteristic feature is there. So such identification feature is not there. But you can identify if a mass of cerebrum is given, if a mass of cerebellum is given, you have to identify it as a cerebellum by clearly observing these features. So cerebellum is otherwise called as a little brain. It is largest part of hindbrain. It is largest part of hindbrain. Second largest part of whole brain. Second largest part of whole brain. So this is the cerebrum. It is the largest part. So this is entire thing is largest part. So this is the second largest part in central nervous system. Whereas this is the posterior cranial fossa. It is present in the posterior cranial fossa. So midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. These are present in the. These constitute the. So this constitute the cerebellum constitute a part of hindbrain. So in hindbrain, cerebellum is the largest part. Whereas in whole of CNS, cerebellum is the second largest part. First largest part of the CNS is the cerebrum. First largest part of the CNS is the central nervous system is the cerebrum. This is the second largest part. Whereas in the what are the contents of CNS present in the posterior cranial fossa? Out of all the contents present in the posterior cranial fossa, cerebellum is the largest part. So its weight is 150 grams, 150 milligrams. Its weight is 150 milligrams. So located in the posterior cranial fossa underneath the tentorium cerebelli. Cerebellum is present in the posterior cranial fossa underneath the tentorium cerebelli. Located in the posterior cranial fossa underneath the tentorium cerebelli. Here I want to show you, this is the sagittal section of the skull together with brain, central nervous system, except spinal cord. This is nothing but continuous to spinal cord like this. So there is no spinal cord. As it is sectioned. Now this is the cerebrum, this is the frontal lobe, this is the parietal lobe, this is the occipital lobe, and temporal lobe is here. That is in the cut. That is on the other side. Now this is the cerebellum. This is present in the posterior cranial fossa like this. This is the tentorium cerebelli. This is tentorium cerebelli. So it is present below the tentorium cerebelli. Cerebellum is present below the tentorium cerebelli. This is bone. This is jura mater and arachnoid mater and pia mater. So this is the jura mater. It sends septa. It sends septa between the occipital lobe above and cerebellum below. This is the tentorium cerebelli. So it is present. Cerebellum is present in the posterior cranial fossa below the tentorium cerebelli. This is the tentorium cerebelli. If you see the section of the cerebellum, it appears like a characteristic feature. The central nervous system consists of gray matter and white matter. In spinal cord, gray matter is inside, white matter is outside. Whereas in the cerebellum and cerebrum, gray matter is outside, white matter is inside. You see the section of the cerebellum, you are seeing something white matter. So a branched tree-like pattern. A branched tree-like pattern of the white matter surrounded by a grey matter, giving a characteristic appearance. Branched tree pattern. If you see the section of the cerebellum, it gives a branching tree pattern with central white matter as a stems extending into the branching pattern. This appearance of the cerebellum is called arbor vitae. So these are called folia of the cerebellum. This is called folia of the cerebellum, and the white matter branching pattern giving a characteristic appearance. This is called arbor vitae. This is the characteristic feature of cerebellum. So you should not confuse if any person gives you a cerebellum and cerebrum. A mass of cerebrum is given, a mass of frontal lobe or temporal lobe, parietal lobe or occipital lobe. If anybody gives you a mass of cerebellum, you have to identify this is the cerebellum. This is present in the posterior cranial fossa. This is the fourth ventricle, this triangular shaped one. This is the floor of the fourth ventricle. How I am moving the cursor. This is the floor of the fourth ventricle. This is the floor of the, fourth ventricle. This is the floor of the ventricle. This is a triangular shaped cavity. So this is the dorsal surface of the pons. This is the ventral surface of the pons. This is dorsal surface of the upper part of the medulla. This is a triangular, a tent shaped cavity, that is the floor of the fourth ventricle. So this is the anterior surface of the cerebellum. This is the posterior surface of the cerebellum. This is superior border of the cerebellum. This is inferior surface of the cerebellum. So here I am giving you a clear-cut picture in this one. Two borders, two surfaces. Superior border, inferior border, anterior surface and posterior surface. Now I am giving you what is present. This is one fissure. This is one fissure. So this is the one fissure, and a fissura prima. This is one fissure. So this one is anterior lobe. This one is posterior lobe or middle lobe, and this one. So this is a posterolateral sulcus. Posterolateral sulcus. This is a posterolateral sulcus. This is a small lobule. This is a flocculonodular lobule. So anterior lobe, middle or posterior lobe plus flocculonodular lobe. So the cerebellum is divided by 3 fissures into 3 lobes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 fissures, but 3 lobes are there. Actually, 2 fissures are more than enough, but there are various other fissures dividing the cerebellum into so many parts. Dividing the cerebellum into so many parts, which are nothing but a burden over you. That's why I am telling you. So superior border, inferior border, anterior surface, posterior surface, anterior lobe, posterior middle lobe, flocculonodular lobe. So there are 3 fissures: horizontal fissure, fissura prima, and posterolateral fissure, and 3 fissures. These are the characteristic features of the cerebellum I am telling you. Located in the posterior cranial fossa underneath the tentorium cerebelli, that I have pointed you. Now this is the tentorium cerebelli. This is the tentorium cerebelli. Below this is present. This is the cerebellum. This cerebellum is present in posterior cranial fossa. Cerebellum is present in the posterior cranial fossa. This part is called anterior cranial fossa. This part is called middle cranial fossa. Like that. This is the posterior cranial fossa. So in part of the posterior cranial fossa, cerebellum is present below the tentorium cerebelli. This tentorium cerebelli is nothing but a dural fold extending in between the occipital lobe and the cerebellum, behind the occipital lobe and the cerebellum. So that is tentorium cerebelli. Okay, I think that I have given you a clear-cut idea. Now it is separate from the pons and medulla by the cavity of the fourth ventricle. I have mentioned you. So this is the cavity of the fourth ventricle. So this is the floor of the ventricle. So cerebellum is separated from the dorsal surface of the pons and also from the upper part of the dorsal surface of the medulla by means of cavity of the fourth ventricle. So a diagrammatic representation and a PowerPoint presentation, both are corresponding with each other. Cerebellum is connected to the brainstem by 3 cerebellar peduncles. Cerebellum is connected to the brainstem by 3 cerebellar peduncles. What is brainstem? Midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata. Midbrain is the first part. So cerebellum is connected to the first part, that is midbrain, by means of superior cerebellar peduncles. Cerebellum is connected to the middle part of the brainstem, that is pons, by means of middle cerebellar peduncles. Cerebellum is connected to the third part of the brainstem, that is medulla, by means of inferior cerebellar peduncles. So superior cerebellar peduncles, they are 2 in number. Middle cerebellar peduncle, a pair, that means 2 in number. Inferior cerebellar peduncles, 2 in number. Each one goes to the each cerebellar hemisphere. That means the cerebellum is made up of 2 cerebellar hemispheres. 2 hemispherical masses of the cerebellum are united in the center by means of vermis. 2 hemispheres. Cerebellum consists of 2 hemispheres. The 2 hemispheres are connected in the center by means of vermis. So 3 peduncles connect this cerebellum with the brainstem. Midbrain, first part of the brainstem with the superior cerebellar peduncle. Middle part, that is pons, with the middle cerebellar peduncle. Lower part of the brainstem, that is third part, medulla, with the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So the cerebellum present in the posterior cranial fossa is connected with the entire brainstem. So through the peduncle. So some fibers coming from the brain and pons and also from the medulla entering into the cerebellum, and some fibers also leaving the cerebellum through these peduncles. So they constitute the afferent and deferent. They are connected to the various nuclei present in medulla, various nuclei present in the pons, various nuclei present in the midbrain. So cerebellum is connected by means of 3 peduncles through these three peduncles, various connections of fibers are present with the cerebellum. They may be afferent or they may be efferent. So among the three peduncles attached to the cerebellum, superior cerebellar peduncle, middle cerebellar peduncle, inferior cerebellar peduncle, the middle cerebellar peduncle is the largest one. The middle cerebellar peduncle of the three is largest one. So the inferior cerebellar peduncle connected to the cerebellum is otherwise called as restiform body. His other name given to the inferior cerebellar peduncle is restiform body. Because of all these connections, the cerebellum controls the functions because of its connections with the other parts of the central nervous system. Then let us come into the what are the functions of the cerebellum. You must know what are the functions of the cerebellum. You must know. Maintenance of posture. So you are able to stand without closing your eyes. With closing of your eyes also, that is maintenance of posture. So maintenance of muscle tone. So your muscles are present in a certain tone. So they are not relaxed, they are not contracted, they are in balance. That is maintenance of muscle tone. Coordination of voluntary motor activity. Coordination of voluntary motor activity. If you want to move to some other place, then your legs work. Because if the distance is too long, it's a 5 kilometers or 6 kilometers, then your brain says that you are walking in a slow movement that you may not reach within the sufficient time. Then you will increase your speed of walking. So motor activity is increased. So because of connections of the cerebellum with the medulla and spinal cord and with the other centers, thalamus and others, the cerebellum is responsibly maintains the motor activity. So whether that motor activity is sufficient to cover the distance within the speculated time, whether the movements are smooth, whether the movements are rough, or whether the movements, if you walk speedily, you can fall. If you walk slowly, you cannot reach within the time. So such beautiful coordination of voluntary motor activity is achieved by cerebellum. It gets its activity by means of its connections with the spinal cord, midbrain, and also with the cerebral cortex, and also with the thalamus. So this is the coordination of voluntary motor activity, how the cerebellum gets its voluntary motor activity. So because of this cerebellum, it is otherwise called as little brain. It is otherwise Sherrington, a scientist, called it as head ganglion, not basal ganglia. It is head ganglia. It also adjusts to coordination of skillful volitional movements. This is achieved through somatic sensory information, proprioceptive sensations from muscles and joints. Proprioceptive sensations, touch and pain and temperature, whatever the things happening in your muscles, it goes to the cerebellum, then it goes to the, from cerebellum it goes to the sensory cortex and other things through the sensory tractway. So like that, if the sufficient motor activity is necessary, it is not sufficient, again you will get information from the motor cortex, and order from the motor cortex, it will go to the cerebellum, from cerebellum it will go to the spinal cord, etc. Through all of these connections only, the cerebellum maintains its activity. For example, if any person, you are seeing some people are drunkards, alcoholic people, they will take excess consumption of alcohol. So the alcohol consumption leads to loss of cerebellar function temporarily, so that a person who is a drunkard has lost his voluntary control, because the alcohol also acts on the cerebellum. So he irregularly talks, he irregularly behaves. So that is the characteristic feature. Again, it is only a temporary. After the alcohol is action period is lost, sufficient time is necessary for the alcohol. It will work only for a certain period. After that, the alcohol will be metabolized. Again, the function will come. Again, the function will come. So this is the function of cerebellum. So these are the functions of the cerebellum. Sherrington regarded the cerebellum as a head ganglion of the proprioceptive system. Sherrington regarded cerebellum as head ganglion of the proprioceptive system. Cerebellar disease manifests triad of motor dysfunctions: disequilibrium, hypotonia, dysnergia. Disequilibrium, that means you are not able to maintain the balance. Equilibrium is not maintained. Hypotonia, your muscles become flaccid. Dysnergia is another symptom, so you are able to lose its motor activities. So cerebellar disease manifests triad of motor dysfunctions: disequilibrium, hypotonia, and dysnergia. So the cerebellar disease manifests triad of motor dysfunctions: disequilibrium, hypotonia, second one, and dysnergia, third one. All these symptoms occur if your cerebellum is damaged either by means of injury or by a vascular accident or by any disease. Now, external features: 3 parts, 2 surfaces, 2 notches, 3 well-marked features. 2 large lateral hemispheres, hemispherical lobes are united by vermis. Already I told you, cerebellum is made up of 2 cerebellar hemispheres. They are united in the center by means of vermis. So, superior surface of the cerebellum is convex. Inferior surface presents a deep median notch called vallecula. If you see the cerebellum, it is convex. It is superior surface. Inferior surface presents a deep median notch called vallecula. Anterior cerebellar notch is present on anterior aspect of the cerebellum and accommodates parts. So, I will show you the anterior cerebellar notch. So, this is the anterior cerebellar notch. So, it is accommodating the parts. It is accommodating the parts. This is the anterior cerebellar notch. So this is cerebellar tonsil, a projection of cerebellum, a mass of projection of cerebellum as a cone-like projection into the lower region of the posterior cranial fossa is called as cerebellar tonsil. So this is called as cerebellar tonsil. Two large lateral hemispherical lobes are united by vermis. Superior and inferior surface of the cerebellum is convex. Inferior surface presents a deep median notch called vallecula. Anterior cerebellar notch, already I show you in the diagram, is present on the anterior aspect of the cerebellum and accommodates parts. Posterior cerebellar notch is deep and narrow and large as the falx cerebelli. Posterior cerebellar notch is deep and narrow and large as the falx cerebelli. This is stentorian cerebelli. So, certain amount of dura mater also extends into the content of the cerebellum, that is called as falx cerebelli. Now, this is the diagram given in the textbook. Superior view of the cerebellum, so which is convex. So, this is the central part vermis. So, imperfect observation of the vermis. It is deep. So, that's why it is shown in a dotted line. So, this is superior cerebellar notch. This is fissura prima. This is cerebellar hemisphere. This is one cerebellar hemisphere. This is another cerebellar hemisphere. United in the center by means of vermis. So, this is upper border of the pons. So, this is superior cerebellar notch. This one is superior cerebellar notch. This is posterior cerebellar notch. This is posterior cerebellar notch. This is a horizontal fissure present on the posterolateral direction, dividing this one into flocculonodular lobe. This is fissura prima. This is one cerebellar hemisphere. So, this is fissura prima is a V-shaped, dividing the up to the vermis, V-shaped one. So, this is an anterior lobe. This is a middle or posterior lobe. So, this one, a small projection, a separate one is present here like this, is a flocculonodular lobe. Fissure's horizontal fissure runs along the lateral and posterior margins of the cerebellum, horizontal fissure. Posterolateral fissure lies on the inferior. Posterior horizontal fissure runs along the lateral and posterior margins of the cerebellum. It marks junction between the superior and inferior surfaces. So, superior and inferior surface. So, this entire one is superior surface. So below that is inferior surface of the cerebellum. So horizontal fissure marks the superior surface from the inferior surface. So these are all the superior surface. These are all the, up to this one is superior surface. So superior surface is marked by horizontal fissure. So the entire superior surface. So this is inferior surface. A below surface is the inferior surface. So this is called inferior surface. V-shaped fissure. Posterolateral fissure lies on the inferior surface. V-shaped fissura prima on the superior surface. It divides the corpus cerebelli into anterior and posterior or middle lobes. Now you see how he has given a beautiful identification. This is anterior lobe. This is fissura prima. This is the posterior lobe. This one is flocculonodular lobe. So this is a posterolateral fissure. This is a posterolateral fissure. This is a fissura prima. This is a horizontal fissure. It's a horizontal fissure. So this is the anterior lobe. This is the posterior lobe. This is the flocculonodular lobe. So this one is the small one, a separate one is a flocculonodular lobe. So this one is a posterior lobe. So this one is a anterior lobe. So fissura prima, dividing it into main. This is the main fissure. So fissura prima is the main fissure of the cerebellum, dividing it into anterior lobe, dividing it into posterior lobe, whereas posterolateral fissure divides the flocculonodular lobe from the posterior lobe or middle lobe. A horizontal fissure is present here. That is the reason. You see this one, how it is. Anterior lobe lies on anterior surface, anterior to fissura prima. Anterior lobe lies on anterior surface, anterior to fissura prima. Primary fissure or fissura prima. So anterior lobe. Posterior and middle lobe lies between the fissura prima on the superior surface and posterolateral fissure on the inferior surface. Fissura prima on the superior surface. So this is fissura prima on the superior surface and posterolateral fissure on the inferior surface. So this is the posterior lobe or middle lobe. How he has given. Flocculonodular lobe is the smallest and lies on the inferior surface in front of the posterolateral fissure. Flocculonodular lobe is the smallest and lies on the inferior surface in front of the posterolateral fissure. Now, various subdivisions, lobules of Vermis and cerebellar hemisphere. This is a tabular form given in standard textbooks, all standard textbooks. Now, cerebellum is connected in the center by means of Vermis. Vermis. Two cerebellar hemispheres, right cerebellar hemisphere and left cerebellar hemispheres. So, the cerebellum is also divided into divisions. So, Vermis is also divided into divisions. So, cerebellum whole it is divided into anterior lobe, posterior lobe and flocculonodular lobe. So this one corresponds with the subdivisions of the Vermis and subdivisions of the cerebellar hemispheres. So lingula, central lobule, culmen. So posterior lobe contains decluve, polium, tuber, pyramid and uvula. So flocculonodular lobe contains nodule. So that cerebellum is called flocculus. So this is the horizontal fissure. This is fissura prima, lingula. So these are the subdivisions. Declare how he has given. This is the superior surface. So various subdivisions of the cerebellum. Now schematic diagram to show the various subdivisions of the cerebellum as seen on inferior surface from below upwards. From below, you have to put your head downwards. You have to see through from below upwards. Then you will find like this. Morphological subdivisions. Based on phylogenetic and functional criteria, the cerebellum is divided into three parts. So, Vermis is divided into certain things. Cerebellum is divided into certain, cerebellar hemispheres are divided into certain things. So you have to study which part of the division of the vermis corresponds with the cerebellum. It is named one thing. So flocculonodular lobe. So it is a cerebellar lobe. It corresponds to lingula and vermis. Like that you have to identify. So that's but now based on phylogenetic and functional criteria, the cerebellum is divided into three parts. Archicerebellum, vestibular cerebellum. So most connections with vestibular apparatus and others. Paliocerebellum, spinocerebellar because spinal cord. Neocerebellum, so modern one, cerebral cerebellum. Because the highest evolved center in the central nervous system is cerebrum, cerebral cortex. Maybe more, it is motor and sensory. So neocerebellum is highly developed one. So archicerebellum is the oldest one, paliocerebellum is the second oldest one, and neocerebellum is the most modern one. So depending phylogenetic and functional criteria, the cerebellum is divided into three parts: archicerebellum, paliocerebellum, and neocerebellum. Archicerebellum, vestibular cerebellum, paliocerebellum, spinocerebellar, and neocerebellum, cerebral cerebellum that is connected with the cerebrum. So these are the subdivisions. Now archicerebellum, vestibular cerebellum, oldest part. It consists of flocculonodular lobe and lingula. It consists of flocculonodular lobe and lingula. So this is the flocculonodular lobe. This is the lingula. So flocculonodular lobe and lingula. So this is the archicerebellum. This is the lingula. This is so this projection. How this is there? This projection. So this one is flocculonodular lobe. This one is the archicerebellum. This is the oldest one. That is called vestibular. Vestibular. Now paliocerebellum or spinocerebellar. So archicerebellum, vestibular cerebellum, oldest one. It is concerned with maintenance of equilibrium, tone, and posture of trunk muscles. Equilibrium, tone, and posture of trunk muscles. That's function is there. Paliocerebellum is spinocerebellar in connections and concerned with the tone, posture, and crude movements. Their trunk movements, here it is concerned with crude movements. Neocerebellum, cerebral cerebellum is the most recent part. It is prominent in higher mammals. It is made up of middle lobe, the largest part of the cerebellum, except the pyramid and uvula of the inferior vermis. So neocerebellum chiefly is cortico-pontocerebellar in connection, from cortex to pons and pons to cerebellum. So cortico, that is cerebral cortex, motor and sensory. Then pons, part of the brain is the middle part. From the pons, cerebellar connection is there. So and is concerned with smooth performance of skin voluntary movement. So already he has given it is made up of middle lobe or posterior lobe. The cerebellum is made up of this one. So the remaining lobe is flocculonodular lobe, oldest part. So middle lobe or posterior lobe is the newest part. So the remaining part is anterior lobe. That is the second part. So that is paliocerebellum. You have to see again what part of the cerebellum belongs to archi and palio. This is the posterior cerebellum, neocerebellum. This is the flocculonodular lobe concerned with archicerebellum. This is paliocerebellum. This is paliocerebellum. So these three parts, phylogenetically and embryologically and functionally also different in functions. That's why the nature has given such a division of cerebellum. So the nature has given you such a division for understanding in the cerebellum. So I think that my lecture and my presentation, so this is flocculonodular lobe, archicerebellum, oldest part. This is neocerebellum, posterior lobe or middle lobe. This is the modern part. So this is paliocerebellum, second oldest part. So its functions are described here. You go through it. I will show you. So archicerebellum, oldest part. Equilibrium, tone, and posture of trunk muscles. Paliocerebellum concerned with tone, posture, and crude movements. Neocerebellum concerned with smooth performance of skilled voluntary movements. Cortico-pontocerebellar. So this has given you a clear-cut division of cerebellum morphologically and also the functionally and embryological division. Now, components, nuclei, connections, and functions of the morphological subdivisions of the cerebellum. This is a beautiful tabular form given in all standard textbooks. Archicerebellum, floccular, nodular, lobe, and linguala. Nucleus fastigious. So, chief connections, vestibulocerebellar. So, maintenance of equilibrium, responsible for maintaining the position of body in space. So, paleocerebellum, in between, neither oldest nor newest, middle one, second oldest. Whole of anterior lobe except lingula, pyramid, and uvula. Nucleus interpositions consisting of nucleus globus, nucleus emboliformis, spinocerebellar, controls crude movements of the limbs. Neocerebellum, most recent part, whole of posterior lobe except pyramid and uvula. Nucleus dentatus. So, nucleus is nucleus dentatus. Corticopontosum. So, you are here in this discussion, you will confuse about nucleus. Now, the central part of the cerebellum is the white matter. The peripheral part of the cerebellum is the gray matter. Gray matter is composed of neurons. White matter is composed of fibers. That is a usual phenomenon everywhere in the central nervous system. No doubt. Now, nuclei are nothing but collection of neurons within the central nervous system. Ganglia are nothing but collection of neurons outside the central nervous system. So, certain neurons, certain amount of neurons, and considerable quantity of neurons are gathered in the white matter of the cerebellum. Central part of the cerebellum is the white matter. Peripheral part is gray matter. So, in the central part of the white matter of the cerebellum, certain neuronal collections are there. They are called as nuclei. So, they are named dentate nucleus. So, they are nucleus interpositions, globus, emboliformis, nucleus fastigious. One nucleus, second nucleus, and third, fourth, and fifth nucleus. So, there are all these nucleus are present in the white matter of the cerebellum. So, archicerebellum part, white matter, nucleus fastigious. Paleocerebellum white part, so these nuclei are present. Neocerebellum part, so nucleus dentatus is present. Now, I am going to see the diagram. Show you the diagram. Where they are present. Will give a clear-cut idea. So these are the nucleus. I had written what are present in the white matter of the cerebellum. Oh, you see, this is the gray matter. This is the white matter. This is the dentate nucleus. This is the emboliform nucleus. This is globus nucleus. These two are called as interpositions. This is vestigial nucleus. So this is the white matter of the cerebellum. So in the cerebellum, these nuclei are present. So he has discussed that one. So this is the gray matter. This is the white matter. In the white matter, collection of neurons in this form, in the oval, so crumbled back, oval, rounded, slightly rounded, so more rounded one with different colors. That is the show you. So I had given you an idea about the nuclei present in this. So already I discussed you internal structure of the cerebellum. Already I discussed you the outer structure of the cerebellum. Cerebellum is made up of thin surface layer of gray matter and a central core of white matter. The central core of white matter is arranged in branching pattern of a tree called arbor vitae. Now structure of cerebellar cortex. So the outer gray matter of the cerebellum is made up of three layers. Outer molecular layer, intermediate Purkinje cell layer, and inner granular layer. Outer molecular layer, intermediate Purkinje cell layer, inner granular layer. I will show you in the histological section, these three. So, this is the cerebellum. So, outer layer, middle layer, outer plexiform layer, middle Purkinje layer, inner granular layer. So, these cells are nothing but Purkinje cells. These cells appear as granule cells. So, this is outer plexiform layer. So, this is the pattern. Outer molecular or plexiform layer consists of basket cells and stellate cells. Cells are different. Purkinje cell layer consists of a single row of large flask-shaped cells. So, inner granular layer consists of numerous closely packed small cells. numerous closely packed small cells. So the gray matter of the cerebellum is divided into 3 layers. Outer molecular layer, it contains basket cells and stellate cells. 2, Purkinje cell layer, that is second layer, large flash type cell. 3, inner granular layer, numerous closely packed small cells. So these are all present. So intrinsic neurons of the cerebellar cortex, they are 5 types. Only all types of cells present in the cerebral cortex, that is gray matter of the cerebellum, gray matter of the cerebellum, are only 5 types. What are the 5 types? I will show you. So I discussed you. Out of these 5 cells, granular cells are excitatory. Granular cells are excitatory. Remaining 4 cells of the types of cells, neurons present in the gray matter of the cerebellum, is inhibitory. So this is only the central nervous system where maximum number of inhibitory neurons are present in the cerebellum. It is the characteristic feature. What is the characteristic feature of cerebellar cortex, gray matter? It contains 5 types of cells. 4 types of cells are inhibitory. Only granular cells are excitatory. This is the condition in the central nervous system. Cerebellum, only more number of inhibitory neurons and maximum number of inhibitory neurons is present. This is the characteristic feature. Now, intracerebellar nuclei are also called central nuclei. So they are present in the white matter. A collection of neurons in the white matter itself is called nucleus. That is present in the central white matter of the cerebellum. So dentate nucleus, emboliform nucleus, globus nucleus, and fastigious nucleus. Dentate nucleus, most prominent and largest part in, especially in primates, especially in humans. I will show you the. This is a dentate nucleus. It is more prominent in primates, especially in humans. This is dentate nucleus. So it has got connections with the red nucleus present in the brain. It has got connections with the thalamus. So it has got connections with the spinal cord below. So it is the nucleus of neocerebellum, that is posterior lobe. It is shaped like a crumbled bag. Efferent fibers leave from this nucleus most of superior cerebellar peduncle, dentorubral, dentothalamic fibers. So the efferent fibers from this nucleus, most of the superior cerebellar peduncle. So superior cerebellar peduncle contains most number of fibers coming from the dentate nucleus present in the new part of the cerebellum, that is neocerebellum or posterior cerebellum. From red nucleus, thalamus project to spinal cord and cerebral cortex. So the fibers coming from the dentate nucleus, so the axons or dendrites coming from the neurons present in the dentate nucleus are going through the superior cerebellar peduncle to enter into the midbrain. Red nucleus is present in the midbrain. From there, certain projection of fibers goes to the thalamus. From the thalamus, certain fibers goes to the spinal cord below and also to the cerebral cortex above. So now I am telling you the neuronal circuits of the cerebellum. This is the neuronal circuits of the cerebellum. You must know it. Physiology madam will teach you more. Now emboliform nucleus, woven in shape, medial to the dentate nucleus. It is the nucleus of paleocerebellum. So second cerebellum, anterior lobe. It gives fibers to red nucleus, that is rubrospinal tract, facilitate flexor muscle tone. So I will show you the emboliform nucleus. So this is emboliform nucleus. It is present in paleocerebellum. This is present in neocerebellum, modern cerebellum. So this is present in second cerebellum. Now fastigious nucleus, globus nucleus, round in shape, lies between the emboliform and fastigious nucleus. So globus nucleus. This is the globus nucleus present between the fastigious nucleus and emboliform nucleus. Fastigious nucleus lies near the midline in the vermis close to the roof of the fourth ventricle. It is the nucleus of archicerebellum. It is the nucleus of oldest cerebellum, fastigious nucleus. So it is present in flocculonodular lobe. White matter the flocculonodular lobe. So various white matter present in 3 lobes contains 3 different nuclei. I have mentioned where the position of nucleus is present in the white matter. In which part of the white matter the cerebellum, whether anterior lobe, posterior lobe or middle lobe or flocculonodular lobe. You must know such a differentiation also. Globus nucleus and involvely form together called as nucleus interpositions. Now white matter. The white matter is made up of 3 types of fibers. Intrinsic fibers, afferent fibers and afferent fiber. Intrinsic fibers remain connected with different regions of the cerebellum, within the cerebellum or opposite cerebellar hemisphere. One cerebellar hemisphere within the connections within the cerebellum, one hemisphere or in between the 2 cerebellar hemispheres, right cerebellum and left cerebellum hemispheres. Afferent and afferent fibers connect the cerebellum with other parts of the central nervous system. Afferent, you know very well afferent. What is afferent? Afferent coming from the center, afferent going towards the center. One is centripetal and another is centrifugal. So connect the cerebellum with other parts of the central nervous system. Connections of cerebellum. Afferent fibers of the cerebellum receive input through the afferent fibers from the cerebral cortex, spinal cord and vestibular apparatus. So afferent connections, that is coming from the cerebellum, coming to the cerebellum from other parts, cerebral cortex, superior highest level of CNS, spinal cord and also vestibular apparatus. From cerebral cortex to cerebellum, what are the fibers? So cortico-pontocerebellar fiber, cerebro-olivocerebellar fiber, cerebro-reticulocerebellar pathway. So these 3 paths coming from the cerebrum, highest part. So motor cortex or sensory cortex or something. So motor. So they reach the cerebellum. So cortico-pontocerebellar, cerebro-olivocerebellar, cerebro-reticulocerebellar pathway. So their destination is cerebellum. They are coming from this point. Origin is from this point. Destination is from this point. These one, and these one are middle relay stations. So that's why the track is named like this. They are from cerebral cortex to cerebellum. I think that you might have understood. From spinal cord to cerebellum, subconscious proprioceptive information by posterior spinocerebellar, anterior spinocerebellar. That means these present in posterior heart. Anterior means present in anterior heart. Kiniocerebellar. So nucleus cuneatus and gracilis. So cuneate nucleus. There are tracks coming to the cerebellum. So posterior spinocerebellar. Lower part is spinal cord, origin. Cerebellum is the end point. Anterior horn of the spinal cord, anterior, spino. So cerebellum is the destination part. So cuneate nucleus are the present. So from the medulla and also from going to the cerebellum is the last part. So this is the origin part. This is the destination. This is the destination part is cerebellum. So these are the fibers. The afferent fibers enter the cerebellum mainly through the inferior middle cerebellar peduncles. There are 3 peduncles connecting the cerebellum to the brainstem. Midbrain, superior cerebellar peduncle. Pons, middle cerebellar peduncle. Medulla, inferior cerebellar peduncle. So the afferent fibers enter the cerebellum mainly through the inferior and middle cerebellar peduncle. So afferent fibers enter the cerebellum mainly through the inferior and middle cerebellar peduncles. They are classified into the climbing and mossy fibers. So whatever the afferent fibers, majority going through the inferior and middle cerebellar peduncles, they are again classified into climbing and mossy fibers. Now afferent fibers. Afferent fibers from cerebellum pass to the red nucleus, thalamus, vestibular complex and reticular formation. So red nucleus, thalamus, vestibular complex and reticular formation. The entire output of the cerebellar cortex is through axons of the Purkinje cells. I already told you there are 5 types of cells in the cerebral cortex. Basket cells, stellate cells, Purkinje cells, granular cells, and another 1 type of cells. So out of all these, only axons are the Purkinje cells. So 5 types of neurons are present in the cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex is the outer layer of the cerebellum. Cerebellar cortex. So cerebellar cortex is the outer gray matter of the cerebellum. White matter is the center part. So the entire output of cerebellar cortex is through the axons of the Purkinje cells. My dear students, I will always request you to follow the class regularly and seriously by observing each point. Then only you will follow in the central nervous system. Now, these are all the connections how he has given. Now, intrinsic neuronal circulatory in cerebellum. So, red color is excitatory and blue color is inhibitory. How it is continued? Golgi cells, granule cells, basket and stellate cells, 4 cells, Purkinje cells. So, this is the Purkinje cell, 1 cell, basket and stellate cells, 2, 3, Golgi cells, 4, granule cells, 5. So, there are 5 types of neurons in the cerebellar cortex. So, climbing fibers and mossy fibers. So, all neurons, tracks, axons of the Purkinje cells gives rise to afferent and efferent outflow. All the afferent fibers to the cerebellum, mossy and climbing fibers are excitatory to the cells of cerebellar cortex. So, all afferent fibers to the cerebellum, either mossy and climbing fibers are excitatory to the cells of the cerebellar cortex. And their collaterals are excitatory to the intracerebellar nuclei. Climbing fibers excite Purkinje cells directly. Mossy fibers excite the Purkinje cells indirectly through granule cells. Already I told you there are 5 types of neurons. Only granule cells are excitatory. Remaining 4 are inhibitory neurons. But they have got to, by getting a collateral circulation, collateral connections, they are acting on the as excitatory. So dysfunction is also present. So, more number of inhibitory neurons are present in the cerebellum. Excitatory neurons are only granule cells. Cerebellar peduncle. The afferent and efferent fibers of the cerebellum are grouped together on each side into 3 large bundles called cerebellar peduncles. They are superior cerebellar peduncle, middle cerebellar peduncle connecting the pons, inferior cerebellar peduncle connecting the medulla, superior cerebellar peduncle connecting the midbrain. The inferior cerebellar peduncle is also called restiform body. Already I told you in the first. Inferior cerebellar peduncle consists mainly of afferent fibers to the cerebellum from spinal cord, alveoli nuclei, reticular formation of medulla and vestibular nuclei and nerve. So, afferent fibers reaching the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle. They are taking fibers from the spinal cord, alveoli nuclei, reticular formation, medulla and vestibular nuclei. Or spinal cord, alveoli nuclei, reticular formation, medulla and vestibular nuclei give afferent fibers that goes to the cerebellum. Middle cerebellar peduncle is the largest, consists only of afferent fibers and transmit the impulse from pontine nuclei to the opposite cerebellar hemisphere. So they are coming from the cerebral cortex and ending in the pontine nuclei present in the pons. From the pontine nuclei, axons arise and goes to the cerebellum on the opposite side. They are only afferent fibers. They are reaching only the cerebellum center. Cerebellum, they are considering cerebellum center only. So only middle cerebellar peduncle contains afferent fibers. So the remaining superior cerebellar peduncle and inferior cerebellar peduncle both contain afferents and efferents. Inferior cerebellar peduncle contains majority of afferent fibers and superior cerebellar peduncle contains majority of efferent fibers. Like that. Only the ratio, except the middle cerebellar peduncle contains only afferent fibers. Now superior cerebellar peduncle emerges from the anterior cerebellar knot and runs superiorly and enters the lower part of the midbrain. It is the principal afferent pathway. Its fibers arise mainly in the dentate nucleus, already I told you. Inferior cerebellar peduncle afferent fibers. These are all the tracts. Posterior spinocerebellar, alvocerebellar, para-alvocerebellar, cuneo-cerebellar, anterosternal arcade fiber, vestibulocerebellar fiber, reticulocerebellar fibers. Now afferent fibers. Cerebello-vestibular fiber, cerebello-reticular fibers, cerebello-alveoli fibers. So, middle cerebellar peduncle gives only afferent fibers. There is no afferent fibers in middle cerebellar peduncle. Middle cerebellar peduncle, afferent fibers, pontocerebellar fiber, reticulocerebellar fiber, ceratogenic fibers. Afferent fibers, no afferent fibers pass through the middle cerebellar peduncle. Now, superior cerebellar peduncle, afferent fiber, anterior spinocerebellar tract, tectocerebellar fiber, trigeminocerebellar fibers, cerebellocerebellar fibers, hypothalamocerebellar fibers. So these are all afferent fibers. Efferent fibers, cerebello-rubral fibers from cerebellum to the red nucleus. Dentatorubral fiber from dentate nucleus present in the neocerebellum to the red nucleus present in the midbrain. Dentatothalamus, from dentate nucleus to the thalamus, sensory relay, cerebello-olivary fibers. So cerebello-reticular fibers. So this is reticular formation. This is olivary nucleus. This is olivary nucleus. So this is the fibers, afferent fibers. Now comparator function of the cerebellum. Cerebellum plays a key role in accomplishing smooth and coordinated movements by means of its comparator function. For example, if your motor activity is large, so impulses goes from sensory part of your spinal cord to the cerebral cortex. The cerebellum equates what amount of motor activity, whether it has to be decreased. Such impulse goes from cerebellum to the cerebral cortex, highest center of brain. From there, an impulse comes to the lower impulse comes to the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord, and motor function is decreased. For example, if the motor function is low, impulse coming from through the posterior part of the spinal cord goes to the cerebellum and goes to the highest center of brain, cerebral cortex. From there, impulse comes to the anterior horn cells in a rapid way and fast way and large amount of impulse, and motor activity is increased. Such a balancing mechanism, comparative function between the motor activity and sensory activity is going place in the cerebellum. So a smooth coordinated activity of motor function is present because cerebellum actively works. Now arterial supply of the cerebellum. Superior cerebellar artery, branch of basilar artery, supply the superior surface of the cerebellum. I have shown you the superior surface. Anterior inferior cerebellar artery, branch of basilar artery supplies the anterior part of the inferior surface of the cerebellum. Posterior inferior cerebellar artery, branch of vertebral artery supplies the posterior part of the inferior surface of the cerebellum. So these only superior cerebellar artery, anterior inferior cerebellar artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery. So superior cerebellar artery and anterior inferior cerebellar artery are branch of the basilar artery. Posterior inferior cerebellar artery is a branch of vertebral artery supplying the cerebellum. Clinical syndrome, cerebellar syndrome, due to trauma or vascular occlusion, tumors produce most number of signs and symptoms together constitute the cerebellar syndrome. Involvement of artery cerebellum lead to truncal ataxia and staggering gait. Patient is unable to maintain balance while standing upright and falls on closing eyes. So if you fall, when you close your eyes, that is called rhomboidsy. Involvement of paliocerebellum leads to hypotonia, asthenia, lack of stability of joint, disturbance of tendon reflexes. Now, involvement of neocerebellum leads to muscular incoordination called acinergia. This manifests dysmetria, intentional tremors, adiokinesis, dystadiokinesis, dysarthria, or scanning speed, and rebound phenomena and occurs. Lesions of cerebellar hemispheres give rise to signs and symptoms on the side of lesion. Each cerebellar hemisphere is connected nervous pathways on the same side. So ipsilateral lesions only occur. If it is in the cerebrum, highest center, contralateral occurs because crossing of fibers occurs. Whereas in cerebellum, there is no crossing of fiber. So if a lesion is involved in cerebellum in right cerebellar hemisphere, so only lesion in the right part of the body occurs. Cerebellum and basal ganglia both control motor functions but have opposite effects. Cerebellum and basal ganglia both control motor functions but have opposite functions. So this is the cerebellum. So I think that I am not clinical anatomy. You have to concentrate more on cerebellum, and others also you have to study it. I tried my best to explain you because the time is only 1 hour, my dear students. So I will ask Sushma Madam to communicate the PowerPoint. Once again, you go through the standard textbooks and also the PowerPoint. Wish you best of luck. Thank you very much for your patient hearing and cooperation. So thank you very much. Wish you best of luck.